All right, this is my presentation on benchmarks and goals. I also just want to let you know beforehand that some of my note sections do get pretty lengthy, so if I just kind of brief over some of them, it's because I don't want to go over that 10-minute maximum limit. So the first slide I address is the staffing problem that Michelle is currently facing. Her current staffing issue is that there is a disconnect between some of her employees and the culture of the company, and a clash of culture can affect the performance of the employee, cause tension with coworkers, and affect the overall productivity of the business. So this is extremely important that she gets this issue fixed. Since the business does operate around candy, the employee should probably be energetic, outgoing, fun, and just kind of have the upbeat personality. To be successful and ensure that customers keep coming back, Michelle really needs to work on getting a solution for this problem because employees are currently lacking energy and employees are not offering the best customer service. So my suggestion for the solution to this problem is that she restructures the interview process to address the issue before the person gets hired. So I personally think that she should ask these questions to the candidate before they get brought on board, because these questions will help bring out the kind of person that they are, and it just kind of lets Michelle know ahead of time if this person is going to be a good fit for the role. So the questions that I have included on here are what kind of environment do you thrive in the most, and what drives your passion? If you were starting a company from scratch, what would your company culture be like? What does your ideal workday look like? What are your personal values, and how are they aligned to the company's value? I personally believe that this question is a big deal breaker, because if someone has values that don't necessarily align with the business, then they're probably just going to bring others down and cause tension within the business, which you really want to avoid at all costs. So it's important to make sure that the employees meet that mold. The fifth question was describe your perfect job, company, and work environment. And the last question is, in your opinion, what is leadership? So I believe that all these questions help frame the conversation in terms of what the candidate wants rather than what Michelle wants. It just kind of helps to get to know the employee on a deeper level and know what they can bring to the table. This also helps to challenge the candidate to be honest and think deeply about their responses, because these aren't necessarily questions that are commonly asked in an interview. So they're going to have to think on their toes and answer honestly, and this helps to communicate upfront as well. Here are some important points about metrics in HR. First, metrics are only truly useful when they provide a basis for analysis. They should not be used separate of analysis for any purpose other than compliance reporting. Second, the primary purpose of analysis is to support and improve decision making. Any metric that does not lead to action is not worth the time. Third, identify the appropriate audience for each metric and figure out who's responsible to manage it in HR. And then the fourth point that I have here is with most metrics, there is no defined describable outcome. Organizations must set desirable outcomes or targets for metrics that align with the organization's strategies and goals. And finally, identify the handful of analytics that connect HR or human capital management to organizational strategy and key goals and objectives. Here I list the benefits of HR metrics, and I include a little photo on the right that just kind of breaks it down. The benefits here are that metrics and analytics provide insights that lead to positive actions. They not only help HR departments solve problems more easily, but they also guarantee employees are satisfied, morale is high, and it also ensures that the company is going to succeed. They are not just related to people, but other processes like recruitment, retention, compensation, benefits, and much more. So there's lots of things that metrics can be used for. HR can make better choices and all that kind of stuff because they have the historical data and easily derive the best candidate or decision from that data. It is important for companies to understand why employees leave and stay, and HR metrics can help break that down further and look into that kind of stuff more, because data is important for companies because it helps lead them to the insights, and insights lead to action, and positive action can help companies retain more happier and efficient employees. Here I just kind of have examples of HR metrics. I'm not going to go into all of these. I'll just kind of read them off. So HR metrics can be used in any of these areas. So time to hire, cost per hire, which also helps serve as an indicator of the efficiency of the recruitment process. HR metrics can also be used for early turnover, time since the last promotion, which this rather straightforward metric is useful in explaining why your high potentials leave. This is an area where employees, or you want to look to see how employees are growing within the company, and you really want to get employees working their way up the ladder, because employees don't stay content in one role for that long before they realize that there's more growth opportunities elsewhere. You can also use metrics to determine revenue per employee, performance and potential, billable hours per employee, engagement rating, cost of HR per employee, the ratio of HR professionals per employee, ratio of HR business partners per employee, and you can also use metrics to determine turnover. This metric shows how many workers leave the company in a given year, and when combined with, for instance, a performance metric, the turnover can track the difference in attrition and high and low performers. Preferably, you would like to see low performers leave and high performers stay. Number 13 is the effectiveness of HR software. 14 is absenteeism. And then this whole wheel, obviously there's way more things that can be measured than these 14 things, but this just kind of breaks down in HR some of the bigger things that can be measured using metrics. So we have the 3 benchmarks specific to the Lollipop Company that we were asked to research on. And in the next 3 slides, I actually break this down further. So the first one is a goal of sales for $50,000 in the first year and an increase of 20% in 3 years. So the metric here would be to complete an annual plan and then do quarterly updates. Revenue is the most important key performance indicator, because at the end of the day, revenue is your most, as I just said, most important KPI. But while gross income might seem like a relatively simple metric, it's simply how much money you receive during a specific window of time, including discounts and all that kind of stuff. So you want to break down your revenue to see the percentage of new business. So those customers who have never bought anything from the company before, and then you also want to break it down by upsell, cross-sell, expansion. So existing customers who are buying other products. And then you also want to look at percentage of renewal. So those customers who are extending their contract, or in this case, the customers that have repeat business and just continue to come back to the company. And depending on your business goals, growing a specific percentage will be important. So in this case, we wanted to grow the 20% in 3 years. So using these metrics and looking at these different ways to break it down the situation, you can determine how much or what ways you will be able to grow the company. The second one was a template for staffing needs to include skills, competencies, and qualifications for each position of candy maker and cashier. So on the left, I list some of the qualifications and competencies, skills for candy maker, and on the right, I have the cashier. So it's just kind of broken down. I think that these are self-explanatory kind of things. For candy maker, they have to have a passion for art. Obviously, they have to be creative, a taste for little detail, basic math and observation skills, and so forth. And I also suggest you read my notes because they do get broken down a lot further. However, with the software I'm using, I do have a time limit, so I don't want to exceed that and get cut off. And then also on the right side, I break it down for the cashier, which is basic math skills, efficiency, friendliness, and so forth. Benchmarks for the hiring process of candy makers and cashiers. So the first thing is step 1 is to establish jobs to benchmark. So in this case, we have the 2 jobs. We want to establish the benchmarks and look at the 3 different methods that we can use to see which method is the best in the situation. And then step 3 is to interview and assess with these benchmarks in mind. And then the 4th step is to compare against benchmarks. So benchmarking is one of the most effective ways to improve operations as an organization, including the hiring process. So like I said, if you follow these 4 steps, hopefully this helps to break it down and kind of see things from a different, did I just exceed my, no, okay, to see things from a different view. So with step 1, you have to figure out which jobs you want to benchmark, and start with the positions that seem to hire more frequently, because these are the people that you're going to be seeing more often. So I think that a cashier type of position is a position that has honestly a higher probably turnover rate, so you need to know how to handle this position. And then the second step is to establish the benchmarks. Consider what's going on, or consider going beyond simply identifying education experience. There's more critical pieces that can help you figure out if your new hire is going to work or not. Step 3 is the interview and assess process. So your benchmarks are now ready to go. As you speak with each candidate, make sure that your questions involve the particular behaviors and personality traits that you're looking for. You want to listen to their answers and then determine if you believe that they will be a good fit for the position. All traits have pros and cons, so you'll want to make sure that your candidate are applying them in a way that makes sense to the organization. And then step 4 is compare against benchmarks. So you want to analyze your top contenders against the benchmarks that you initially set out, and make sure to incorporate their interview answers, your observations, and their references into the equation. Education experience are certainly important elements. However, personality traits are probably a bigger deal, because they can make the difference between a short-term and a long-term employee. How to achieve benchmarks when aligned to goals. So the first is feedback. Managers who consistently provide feedback can help employees focus on their performance, and feedback acts as a reminder. Without it, employees get too caught up in the daily tasks and lose sight of their bigger picture. The second way to do this is make sure that tasks are properly allocated. Employees should know their role in each of their projects, and to help them do this, provide visuals and explain things in detail. It's also important to assign the right tasks to the right people. So some people may have strong points and some people may have weak points. So you want to make sure that you take this into consideration when delegating tasks. The third thing is making sure that everyone gets recognized. Engagement is essential in any company, because it helps make sure that a company is growing and reaching its vision. When employees aren't recognized, they lose track of their purpose. So you want to make sure that when you are recognizing employees, you're using the right tactics. So just saying thank you and letting them know that their work is not going unnoticed. How would a company stay on track of goals and strategy? There are several key steps that you can take to establish a successful goal setting and goal alignment strategy in your organization. The first of these is to start at the top. Organizational goal setting must start with the executive team and work its way down. Consulting with and seeking buy-in from senior management will ensure that the organization's goals receive the attention that they need. The second thing is to create a cascade of goals. The first round of high-level strategic goals may not directly relate to an analyst and hire in his or her first year of the organization. With this in mind, after setting goals at the top of the organization, engage department heads and middle managers to help them oversee the objectives in meaningful ways. The third thing is to drive consistency and accountability. Oops, I apologize. Let me go back to that slide. Drive consistency and accountability. Without consistency and accountability, any organizational system will break down. HR can play a powerful role in the goal setting process by establishing standards that ensure department heads across the company translate goals in the same way, which will help provide consistency throughout the company. And the fourth is to encourage continued communication. Often, organizations go through a big, ambitious goal setting process, but then they don't discuss how these goals will be set forth in a year or months from now. They set a goal and then they don't refer back to it. So this is something that they need to make sure that they're continually revisiting the goal and seeing how close they are to reaching that goal, or if anything needs to be changed in order to reach that goal quicker, and just kind of see where they're at in the process. And then these are my references. All right, thank you for watching.